You were born before 1966. You worked your whole life. You saved. You paid your tax. And that, believe it or not, is exactly why the letter is coming for you. Here is the hard truth I want you to hear first. From the 1st of July, 2026, a rule most Australians have never heard of is about to switch back on. It is called deeming. And when it changes, your pension could quietly drop by hundreds of dollars a fortnight without a phone call, without a warning, without anyone asking your permission. I know this because it already caught me. Not next year. A few years ago, and it cost me more than I have ever admitted out loud until now. I still remember the exact moment. A cold Tuesday morning, my kitchen table, a half-finished cup of tea going cold beside a brown envelope from Centrelink I almost threw in the bin. I nearly didn't open it. I wish I could tell you I was smart. I wasn't. I was lucky I opened it at all. So stay with me, because by the end of this I am going to hand you two things the government will never put on the front page. A card and a bonus, both from Services Australia, that thousands of Australians over 60 are entitled to and never claim. If you are on the pension, near the pension, or convinced you earn too much to bother, this still applies to you, especially you. Let me take you back to how it started, because the trap does not look like a trap. That is the whole point of it. When I first went on to the age pension, I thought the number was the number. I thought once they worked out my payment, that was that. Set and forget, I had a modest little nest egg, a term deposit at the bank, a bit in a savings account, some money my late wife and I had put aside for a rainy day that, thank God, never quite came. I thought that money was mine, sitting quietly, doing nothing, and therefore it could not possibly affect my pension. That is the first lie I told myself, and it is the same lie I hear from almost every Australian who gets caught. Here is what nobody explained to me in plain English. Centrelink does not look at the actual interest your savings earn. They do not care that your bank is paying you next to nothing. Instead, they use a system called deeming. Deeming means the government simply assumes your money is earning a certain rate of return, whether it truly is or not. They pretend your savings are earning that amount, they count that pretend income against you, and then they reduce your pension based on money you never actually received. Read that again slowly, because it took me far too long to understand it. They tax your pension on income you did not earn. Now here is where the timing becomes urgent. And here is why I could not sit quietly and let another July go by without warning you. Back in 2020, when the whole world went sideways, the government froze the deeming rates to protect pensioners. They locked the lower rate at 0.25% and the upper rate at 2.25%. For years, that freeze held. And that freeze is the only reason a lot of you have not felt the full bite yet. Then, quietly, in the budget papers, the freeze was extended, but only until the 30th of June, 2026. Do you hear that date? The 30th of June, 2026. The very next day, the 1st of July, 2026, that protection is scheduled to come off. And when it comes off, the rates do not politely stay where they are. Before the freeze, the upper deeming rate sat at 3%. Some years it had been even higher. If those rates climb back to where they were before, the government will be pretending your savings are earning far more than they ever will, and your pension gets cut to match the fantasy. But let me stop there, because I promised I would never leave you in fear without a rope to climb out. There is a way through this. I found it. It is real, and I am going to give it to you before we finish. First, you need to understand how the trap actually closed on me, because the mechanics are the whole game. So let me go back to that brown envelope on the cold Tuesday. I opened it. Inside was a notice telling me my pension was being reduced, not by a few dollars, by an amount that made my stomach drop. And underneath, in that flat, careful language they use, was a line about my assessed income from financial assets. Income. I hadn't earned any income. I was retired. I remember reading that word 3 times, thinking they had made a mistake, thinking I would ring them and it would all be sorted in 10 minutes. It was not a mistake. It was deeming. It was the machine doing exactly what it was built to do. Here is the part that still makes me angry. My savings were sitting in a term deposit earning almost nothing, because that is what safe money earns these days. But Centrelink had deemed that money to be earning a set rate, counted that phantom income against my income test, and every dollar of deemed income over the free area knocked 50 cents off my pension. 50 cents in the dollar. That is the taper rate, and it is brutal when it lands on money you never saw. Now, understand the thresholds, because this is where people trip. For a single person, the first $62,600 of your financial assets is deemed at the lower rate. Everything above that is deemed at the higher rate. For a couple, the first $103,800 is deemed at the lower rate, and the rest at the higher rate. While the higher rate is frozen at 2.25%, the damage is limited. The day that rate climbs, every dollar you hold above that threshold starts costing you more pension. And the cruelest part? Nobody rings you. There is no friendly phone call saying, "Just so you know, the way we calculate your money is about to change, and here is what you should do." The letter arrives after the change, not before. By the time you understand what happened, you have already lost payments you will never get back. Somebody designed it this way. That is what I want you to sit with for a moment. This was not an accident of paperwork. Somebody worked out that most Australians do not understand deeming, that most people over 60 will not read the budget papers, that most of us will assume the number is the number, and they built a system that runs on that silence. The confusion is not a bug. For them, the confusion is convenient. But knowing that they are counting on your silence is the first step to beating them. Because the moment you understand deeming, you can start to move your money and your affairs, so the machine has less to bite. So let me show you what I got wrong next, because the second mistake was worse than the first. After that letter, I did what a lot of proud people do. I panicked, and then I did nothing. I told myself it was too complicated. I told myself I would deal with it later, and later is the most expensive word in the English language when it comes to Centrelink. Here is what I did not know. My financial details on file with Services Australia were out of date. Years out of date. When my wife passed, our savings changed. When I moved money around, the figures shifted. But I never updated them, because nobody ever told me I was supposed to. And here is the trap inside the trap. Centrelink was deeming me on figures that no longer matched reality. In my case, the old figures were higher than what I actually held, which meant they were deeming income on money that had already been spent on her care and her funeral. I was losing pension on savings I no longer even had. When I finally worked up the courage to ring them, and I want to be honest, I sat with that phone in my hand for 20 minutes before I dialed. The person on the other end was actually kind. She was patient, and what she told me changed everything. She said, "Sir, you are allowed to update your financial details at any time, and if your assets have gone down, your pension may go up." I nearly dropped the phone. All those months, all those reduced payments, because I assumed the number was fixed, and because I was too proud and too frightened to ask. So here is your first concrete rescue. And you can do this today, this week, before we even get to the big one. Log into your MyGov account linked to Centrelink or ring Services Australia on the older Australians line, and check the financial assets they have on file for you. Check the balance of every bank account, every term deposit, every share parcel they think you hold. If those numbers are too high, if they are out of date, if they still list an account you closed or a balance from 3 years ago, you may be losing pension right now on money that is not there. Update it. It is free. It is your right, and no advisor needs to do it for you. Now, I can already hear some of you. You are thinking this does not apply to you. You are thinking, I don't have savings sitting in the bank, or I'm a self-funded retiree. I'm not even on the pension. So what has deeming got to do with me? I need you to stay right here, because this next part is for exactly the people who think they are safe. And the people who think they are safe are the ones who get hurt worst. Let me tell you about a bloke I knew. I will not use his real name. He was proud, like me. He had done well. He and his wife had a bit more than the pension cutoff, so Centrelink had knocked him back years ago, and he never went near them again. He was insulted, if I am honest. He felt like they had told him he was too rich to bother, so he decided he would never bother with them. And because he stopped listening, he missed the one thing that could have saved him thousands of dollars a year in medical costs. He never claimed the card I am about to tell you about. He paid full price for his medicines, full price for his scripts. His wife had a heart condition, and every month they were handing over money at the chemist that they simply did not need to pay. For years. That is the danger of thinking you are different. The people who assume the rules do not apply to them stop reading the letters, stop asking the questions, and walk straight past the very help that was designed for them. So whether you are on the full pension, a part pension, or you were knocked back years ago and told you earned too much, I need you to do one thing right now. Stop assuming you know your own situation. Because the thresholds have moved, the rules have changed, and what disqualified you 5 years ago may not disqualify you today. The system is banking on you believing your old no is still true. That is the whole reason I sat down to tell you this, and it is also why I went further and wrote it all down in one place. Everything I learned the hard way, from that first cold Tuesday to the debt notice to the card that changed everything, is laid out step by step in my books, Pension First, Pension Edge, and the Full System. They are written in plain English by an ordinary Australian who lived every one of these mistakes, for the people who would rather have the map before the road falls away. You will find the details in the description below. But knowing the rule is only the beginning, so let me keep walking you through exactly what happened next. Here is a concrete step for you, the one who thinks they are too well off to worry. Before the 1st of July, 2026, write down every financial asset you hold. Your savings, your term deposits, your shares, any account-based pension, add it all up. Then look at how close you sit to those deeming thresholds. The 62,600 for a single, the 103,800 for a couple, because when the deeming rate lifts, the people sitting just above those lines are the ones who get pulled from a comfortable part pension into a much smaller one, or knocked off entirely overnight. If you know where you stand before the change, you can act. If you find out after the letter arrives, it is already too late. Now let me get back to my own story, because there is one more layer to this trap, and it is the layer that turns a bad month into a bad year. After I updated my details and got my pension corrected, I thought I had won. I thought the worst was behind me. But then I made the mistake that so many honest people make, and it is the one I most want to protect you from. I received a small amount of money, a little bit of casual work, helping out a mate with his business, cash for a few hours here and there, nothing much, and I did not report it because I genuinely did not think it counted. Weeks later, another letter. This time the word was one that puts ice in your veins. Overpayment. They said I owed them money back, a debt. Me, a man who had never owed anyone a cent in his life, being told I had a debt to the government because I had earned a little honest money and not declared it against my income test. That is the moment I realized the game had two sides. On one side, they deem income you never earned and cut your pension for it. On the other, when you do earn real income, they can claw your pension back and call it a debt. Heads they win, tails you lose. And once again, the whole thing ran on the fact that I did not understand the rules. But this, finally, is where the escape lives. Because in learning how that debt happened, I discovered the two things I have been promising you from the start. The two things I wish someone had told me at that cold kitchen table before any of the letters came, and I am going to give them to you now, plainly, so you never sit where I sat. The first is called the work bonus, and it is one of the best kept secrets in the whole pension system, because Services Australia does not exactly shout it from the rooftops. Here is how it works, and here is what I did not know. If you are of pension age, the first $300 of income you earn from working every single fortnight is not counted against your pension, not deemed, not taped, simply ignored for the income test. And it gets better. If you do not use that $300 in a fortnight, it does not vanish. It banks up. It rolls into a work bonus balance that can grow all the way up to $11,800. When Services Australia first introduced the boosted starting balance, new pensioners even began with a lump sum of that bonus already sitting in their account. Do you understand what that means? The little bit of casual work that got me a debt notice, the few hours helping my mate, could have been almost entirely shielded if I had known about the work bonus and reported it properly. I did not lose that pension because I earned money. I lost it because I did not know the rule that was designed to let me keep it. So here is your action. If you are on the age pension and you do any paid work at all, even a few hours, even seasonal, even helping family in their business, check your work bonus balance with Services Australia and make sure every dollar of your work income is being run through it. Report your income. Yes, always report it, but report it knowing the first $300 a fortnight and a whole banked buffer behind it is protected. Honest work should never quietly become a debt. This is how you make sure it does not. But the work bonus was only half of what I found. The second thing is bigger, and it is aimed squarely at the person I told you about earlier, the proud one who got knocked back and never went near Centrelink again. It is aimed at the self-funded retiree. It is aimed at the couple sitting just above the pension cutoff who think there is nothing for them. It is called the Commonwealth Seniors Health Card. And this is the card I begged you to stay for. Because here is the secret almost nobody explains clearly. You do not have to be on the age pension to get it. In fact, it is built specifically for the people who miss out on the pension because they have a bit too much. If you have reached age pension age and you are not receiving a pension payment, you may still qualify for this card based on an income test, and the income limits are far more generous than most people ever realize. For a single person, the income threshold to hold this card sits up around $99,000 a year. For a couple combined, it sits up around $159,000 a year. Those are not small numbers. Those are numbers that cover a huge slice of the self-funded retirees in this country who have spent years assuming there was nothing there for them. And what does the card give you? Cheaper prescription medicines under the pharmaceutical benefits scheme. That alone, for anyone managing an ongoing condition, can be worth thousands of dollars a year. Cheaper medical costs through bulk billing incentives, and access to other concessions and payments that come and go with government announcements, the kind of lump sums that only ever land in the accounts of people who already hold the card. My friend, the proud one, went years without it, paying full price at the chemist while his wife was sick, all because he decided one no from Centrelink meant the door was shut forever. When I finally told him about the card, he applied and he was approved. And I will never forget the look on his face when he worked out how much he had thrown away. That look is why I am making this video. So here is the escape, laid out plain. If you were born before 1966, you are either at age pension age or fast approaching it. Between now and the 1st of July, 2026, before that Deeming freeze lifts and the letters start landing, you do three things. You update your financial details with Services Australia so you are never deemed on money you do not have. You check your work bonus so honest work never becomes a debt. And if you are not on the pension, if you were ever told you earned too much, you apply for the Commonwealth Seniors Health Card and you check those income thresholds for yourself, because the person who assumes they do not qualify is exactly the person who has been leaving money on the table for years. Now let me tell you why the timing matters more than ever, and why I could not wait to make this. When that deeming rate lifts on the 1st of July, 2026, two things happen at once. People on the part pension will see their deemed income rise, which means their pension falls. And some people who are only just holding on to a small pension will be pushed off it entirely. Here's the part that stuns people. If you get pushed off the pension by the income test, you do not just lose the payment, you risk losing the concessions that came with it, unless you know to apply for the card that replaces them. The Commonwealth Seniors Health Card is the safety net for exactly that fall. But nobody catches a net they do not know is there. So the very change that is designed to quietly cost you is the change that makes claiming that card more important than it has ever been. The people who understand this before July will land softly. The people who find out after will feel the full drop. And I want to be honest with you about the anger under all of this, because you deserve the truth. This is a system that assumes you will not read the fine print. It deems income on money that earns nothing. It sends the warning letter after the money is already gone. It builds a bonus and a card that could protect you, and then it does the absolute minimum to make sure you ever hear about them. It runs on your silence and your pride and your trust that surely someone would tell you if something important changed. Nobody told me. I found out at a cold kitchen table with a debt notice in my hand and my late wife's savings being counted against me. And I promised myself that as long as I could talk, I would make sure the next Australian heard it in time. That next Australian is you, right now, today. So let me say the whole thing back to you simply, the way I wish someone had said it to me. Your savings are being judged on money they do not earn. The protection on that judgment runs out on the 30th of June, 2026. Before that day, update what Centrelink knows about you, protect your work income through the work bonus, and if you are a self-funded retiree, claim the Commonwealth Seniors Health Card that thousands of proud Australians walk past every single year. Do those things, and the letter that broke my heart will never break yours. If you take nothing else from me today, take this feeling. You do not have to be the one who finds out too late. You just spared yourself the exact mistake that cost me months of pension and a debt I never should have owed. That is the whole reason I sat down to tell you this. And I think you are the kind of person who does this the smart way. The kind who would rather learn from another Australian's hard, embarrassing lesson than repeat it. The kind who reads the letter instead of binning it, who asks the question instead of assuming, who checks the threshold instead of trusting the number was fixed. If that is you, then you and I are the same, and we look out for each other. So do something for me. Tell me in the comments, have you ever opened a letter from Centrelink and felt your stomach drop the way mine did at that kitchen table? Did you know your savings were being deemed to earn income you never actually saw? Write it down below and tell me where in this country you are watching from, because I read every one, and it helps me know who I am fighting for. Your town, your state, just drop it in the comments. And if you want to keep hearing these warnings before the deadline, instead of after the damage, come and join us. This is not about a channel. This is a growing group of ordinary Australians who share the lessons that cost us dearly, so the next one of us gets a warning instead of a debt notice. That is what we do here. We tell each other the bad news early, because there is one more change coming that I have not told you about yet. There is a quiet shift in the way account-based pensions and superannuation income get assessed for that very same health card, and it is about to catch a whole different group of retirees who think they have everything sorted. I will break that one down next, in plain English, exactly like this one. Do not let it catch you the way Deeming caught me. Stay close, stay sharp, and I will see you in the next one. You made it to the end, and that tells me you take this seriously. Inside the Pension Watch, I pick up right where I just left off, walking you through the Deeming defense on your own savings. You can ask me your own question, and a real person, me, answers you myself. You belong here with thousands of older Australians just like you. Just point your phone's camera at the code on screen. Cancel anytime, one click.